What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for MLB Wednesday, September 29th.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top DFS picks for today's MLB slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Oh, and good news, guys. Make sure to stay tuned to the very end of this video because we removed the box that was popping up and blocking the lineup. So now you can see a full lineup using these picks that we made in this video if you stay to the very end. Okay, guys, we have a 13-game slate tonight. So let's get back on track with these MLB picks. Let's take a look at the pitcher position. I like Max Scherzer with an 8% pitching advantage over the San Diego Padres. Max Scherzer is only giving up a .573 OPS versus righties, and he's facing 5 righties here tonight. On top of that, the Padres have only hit 39 of his last 189 pitches. That's a .206 batting average in a huge sample size. Max Scherzer is $11,500 FanDuel salary, $1,100 less on DraftKings, projected at 38.1 fantasy points here tonight. He has an ERA of 2.28. His record is 15-4 on the season, pitching an average of 94 pitches per game, averaging 43 fantasy points per game. He scored 18, 52, and 61 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Max Scherzer here versus the San Diego Padres. Now, if you want to save some salary at the pitcher position, take a look at Sonny Gray, pitching against the Chicago White Sox. Sonny Gray, he's giving up a .646 OPS versus righties and a .693 OPS versus switch hitters. He's facing 5 righties and 4 switch hitters. But the thing that sticks out about this pick is that the White Sox have only hit 6 of his last 57 pitches. That's a 105 batting average. Sonny Gray is $8,500 FanDuel salary, $200 more on DraftKings, projected at 33.4 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 30 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 9, 28, and 37 fantasy points in the last 3 games. He has an ERA of 4. His record is 7-8 on the season, pitching an average of 86 pitches per game. He's projected at 33.4 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Sonny Gray here versus the Chicago White Sox. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher first base position. Here's a value play. I like Nathaniel Lowe with a 69% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Jansen Junk. Nathaniel Lowe is batting 34% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .815 OPS versus righties. And Jansen Junk, he pitches like junk to lefty batters, pitching his worst ball versus lefty batters, 34% worse than his other pitches, giving up a 1.154 OPS versus lefties. Now, Nathaniel Lowe is 0 for 2 versus junk, and he's $2,900 FanDuel salary, $1,500 more on DraftKings, projected at 9.6 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 0, 6, and 25 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Nathaniel Lowe here versus Jansen Junk.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal,
All you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. we'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy?
And we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video.
So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
I also like Ryan Mountcastle with a 31% batting advantage over Nathan Eovaldi. Ryan Mountcastle is batting 4% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .823 OPS versus righties. And Nathan Eovaldi, he pitches his worst ball versus righty batters, 27% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .845 OPS versus righties. Now I like this pick because Ryan Mountcastle is 4 for 7, batting a .571 batting average and a 1.196 OPS versus Eovaldi. He's $3,200 FanDuel salary, $1,300 more on DraftKings, projected at 9.2 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 22, 0, and 3 fantasy points in his last 3 games. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 9.5 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I like Ryan Mountcastle here versus Nathan Eovaldi. Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. I like Ketel Marte with a 9% batting advantage over Alex Wood. Ketel Marte is batting 40% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a 1.151 OPS versus lefties. Now, Alex Wood does pitch his best ball versus switch hitters, only giving up a .545 OPS versus switch hitters. But Ketel Marte's done pretty well, hitting 6 of his last 21, and that's a .286 batting average for a .804 OPS versus Wood. So Ketel Marte is $3,600 FanDuel salary, $900 more on DraftKings, projected at 10.6 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 3, 0, and 28 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Ketel Marte here versus Alex Wood. Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. I've got a stud pick for you. This is my home run hitter, my dong of the day. I like Jose Ramirez with a 67% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Daniel Lynch. Jose Ramirez bats 24% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a 1.150 OPS versus lefties. And Daniel Lynch, he pitches his worst ball by far to switch hitters, 43% worse than his other pitches, giving up a 1.074 OPS versus switch hitters. Jose Ramirez is 2 for 4 with a 1.167 OPS versus Lynch. He's $4,400 FanDuel salary, $1,500 more on DraftKings, projected at 12.6 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 13 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 15, 0, and 3 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Jose Ramirez here versus Daniel Lynch. Okay, who do we have at the shortstop position? I like Xander Bogaerts, batting against the low salary pitcher, Zach Lowther. Xander Bogaerts bats 8% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .925 OPS versus lefties. And Zach Lowther is giving up a .942 OPS versus righties. Xander Bogaerts is 2 for 4 with a 1 OPS versus Lowther, and he's $3,700 FanDuel salary, $1,600 more on DraftKings, projected at 13.4 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. And Xander Bogaerts been in a little bit of a slump here, only scoring 0, 3, and 0 fantasy points in his last 3 games. Now Vegas thinks there's going to be 9.5 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I think this is a good bounce back spot. So I like Xander Bogaerts here versus Zach Lowther. Real quick guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Now I also like Jorge Polanco with a 25% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Casey Mize. Jorge Polanco, he's batting a .712 OPS versus righties, and Casey Mize, he pitches his worst ball by far to switch hitters, 36% worse than his other pitches, giving up a 1.113 OPS versus switch hitters. Jorge Polanco is 4 for 12, batting a .333 batting average and a 1 OPS versus Mize. He's $3,500 FanDuel salary, $1,700 more on DraftKings, projected at 9.4 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 3, 3, and 12 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Jorge Polanco here versus Casey Mize. Okay, moving on to the outfield position. I like Kyle Tucker with a 54% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Drew Rasmussen. Kyle Tucker is batting 16% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .918 OPS versus righties, and Drew Rasmussen, he pitches his worst ball by far to lefty batters, 38% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .890 OPS versus lefties. Now there's no at-bats versus Rasmussen yet, and Kyle Tucker is $3,800 FanDuel salary, $1,600 more on DraftKings, projected at 10.4 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 3, 0, and 19 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Kyle Tucker here versus Drew Rasmussen. Now I also like AJ Pollock. I think this is one of my favorite mid-range plays on the slate. AJ Pollock is batting 22% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a 1.024 OPS versus lefties. And Ryan Weathers, he's pitching his worst ball versus righty batters, 17% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .880 OPS versus righties. Now, AJ Pollock is 0 for 3 versus Weathers, but the splits are great, and he's only $3,100 FanDuel salary, $1,500 more on DraftKings, projected at 10.2 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season, and he's been on fire, scoring 10, 12, and 22 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like AJ Pollock here versus Ryan Weathers. I also like Brandon Nimmo with a 49% batting advantage over Alicia Hernandez. Brandon Nimmo is batting 16% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .890 OPS versus righties, and Alicia Hernandez, he's pitching 33% worse to lefties as he does righties, giving up a .921 OPS versus lefties. Now Brandon Nimmo is 3 for 8, batting a .375 batting average and a 1.250 OPS versus Hernandez. He's $3,000 FanDuel salary, and he's only $300 more on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. Projected at 10.5 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 12, 3, and 9 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Brandon Nimmo here versus Alicia Hernandez.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.